This is the Chiefs official podcast network.
Take advantage of the day. When you get an opportunity in this game, you make a play. The playmakers on three. 1, 2, 3.
Touchdown, Kansas City! The Chiefs are right in the thick of it, baby!
On this edition of Defending the Kingdom, Mitch Holthus with you along with Shawn Barber. Yes, that is the very familiar Reveille bugle call, meaning two formation and call to arms. There's a reason we're playing it today, because the Chiefs get ready to take on the Houston Texans in a bounce-back game. But, Shawn, I'm telling you, who's going to answer the call in this game for the Chiefs, even if it's someone who has to play in a backup role?
No doubt. We hit our Army trumpet call to formation, right? You got to get lined up, make sure you're all tucked in, make sure your hat is crooked, your hat is straight, everything is the way it's supposed to be, and then they start the roll call. They go name by name to make sure everybody's accounted for. The Chiefs definitely need to do that. We have a little bit a number game we're going to have to play here on Sunday, figuring out how many guys to have up in what position to make sure we have enough guys to survive the game. But I think that they're going to take advantage of not only being ready to answer the call, but being able to answer the opportunity to give their all for this team to get a win.
The limited edition 360 Vodka Chiefs commemorative bottle is a sponsor of our podcast network. It's now available in stores throughout the kingdom. 360 Vodkas, Kansas City's hometown vodka and the official vodka of the Kansas City Chiefs. Last week we saw injuries. We saw some, like the defensive line getting down to like the last two guys available for the inside techs. And on the offensive line, we saw it get chopped up a little bit. And the Chiefs have made some roster moves here. But I'm going to ask you globally without getting into specific guys. To me, I have seen guys make their career in a situation like this where you get a chance. I mean, I think of Pringle right now at wide receiver, getting the chance with the injuries to Watkins and to Tyreek Hill, who has stepped up now and proven to be a valuable commodity. Now we're seeing it maybe in the trenches on the lines, both sides. What does it mean to get a shot and to answer the call and do your duty and perhaps even make your career?
Man, I think all these players, they sacrifice so much time, right? Time away from your family, sacrificing time in the weight room. Nutrition, getting proper rest, just building up for that one opportunity to shine, right? You have one opportunity to let everybody know I am an NFL player, and not only just a player, not just a cog, but I can make a impact on the game. And I think that's what Pringle did, man, over the last few weeks, even going back into the preseason. You can tell he didn't take a snap for granted. Every opportunity he had to go out there and run a route, he ran into his the highest capacity. Always, pushing the envelope and kind of just waiting in the bushes for his number to be called. And then when he had a chance to get on that stage, the bright lights wasn't too big for him. He made play after play. Every time his number was called, he answered the bell, right? He answered the bell and made sure that opportunity, when he got that opportunity, he was going to shine. And so we got, Brian Pringle doing it, the wide receiver. Kalen Sanders, the D lineman we drafted, has had to step up. One of my favorite linebackers, Ben Neiman, old Hawkeye from Iowa. I think instinctively, he is one of the best linebackers I've ever seen in such an early stage of his career, with having such a nose for the football, knowing where he fits in the run game, knowing where how to give the proper underneath coverage to the safeties in the pass game. He's playing beyond his years. And so having those guys get some actual playing time and being able to show everybody that they can play at this stage is going to be so big for this organization going forward.
This is an extreme example, but it's an example. Will Shields did not start in his first game in 1993. Did not start. Danny Villa goes down with an injury. He goes into the lineup and starts every game the next 223 games. And, sure, he became a Pro Football Hall of Famer, the best right guard, I think, to ever play. But it wasn't until Villa's injury. Villa didn't get hurt. He may not play the next week. He'd be on placement protection. So the point is here, this is an opportunity for somebody to answer the call. And then I want to ask you, too, scheme. I mean, Spags is working on the defensive scheme. Eric Bieniemy with Coach Reed and Mike Kafka and all the offensive brain trust working on a scheme to beat the Houston Texans. But how much sometimes is it just, I've got to beat you across from me?
Yeah.
I just got to whip you. Here's my job. You got your job, but I'm going to whip your butt.
Yeah,
now, how much of that comes into play?
Man, I think if we just listen to some of the words from Pat Mahomes, if you watch some of the game footage and some of when he's mic'd out, and he's telling the guys, hey, if we just do what we do, let's just focus on what we do well, play our game, that'll always be enough. We are skilled enough on the opposite side of the ball that we can score on anybody, but guys got to do their fundamentals right. You got to stand and hold your blocks and not let immediate pressure get to the quarterback. Quarterback, when he sees open routes, he has to be able to have some vision down the field and see when the route's going to uncover and then make the throw and step into it. Being able to buy a little bit of time when there's a blitz coming up, and receivers being able to adjust their routes based off the defensive coverage and get open, and then when they get open, catch the football. So all those things it's not about what the Texans are going to do. It's about our Chiefs offense doing what we do. And when they do it at a high level, and they are pretty much unstoppable when they do all those things that are fundamentally sound.
The other thing here is trust. Trust your schemes, trust your coaches, trust your teammates. Second would be don't be overwhelmed. Herm Edwards was one of the best I've ever seen at laying this out there. Now he's the head coach at Arizona State. He was here in the late 2000s for 3 years, the Jets coach prior to that. He was with Tony Dungy. That's where his career got formed as a coach. But he said, really, in real time, you're really only playing about 6 to 8 minutes in a game. Mm-hmm. So to help a player get an opportunity to think, concentrate, lock in, think 60 minutes to play the best 6 minutes of your life, to me, I thought is very helpful. Instead of me seeing a big mound of dirt, I'm going to do it one shovel at a time and fill the wheelbarrow up one at a time because I can't move this dirt all at once. So being able to focus, not making it too big, don't get overwhelmed, just take it as it is.
Yeah, and I think, Coach, you hear him saying trust the process. Mm-hmm. You know, the process isn't about the cake being done. You're not worrying about icing the cake. You ain't worrying about, it's going to be overdone, dry, moist, none of that kind of stuff. You're talking about the ingredients. Each ingredient you got to be so detailed to make sure you're doing everything right from the beginning. And at the end of the day, if you do all those steps right, if you block the right person, if you know who to block, if you are sound in your protection, if you running backs pick up the right people, tight ends, chip when you're supposed to chip, finish off the routes, wide receivers running the correct routes, and then leaving the ball in Pat's hand to deliver the ball and having it on time. All of those things need to be taken care of before you can worry about scoring a touchdown or getting to the end zone. And I think Pat is being as great of a leader as he can be, letting guys know, do not worry about getting to the end zone. Don't even worry about that. Let's take care of the little things. Let's make sure that we line up right, make sure we execute right. The play itself will take care of that. The scoreboard is going to take care of itself. We trust the process. We trust the game caller that we know that he's putting the right plays together to break some stuff open for us. We just got to make sure we do the little things, take care of those little details, and we know it's going to be a great day.
So our first quarter, answering the call, the Reveille playing, you're getting an opportunity, make the most of it, whether you've been a starter or you're getting thrust in there because of injuries. The second quarter, and I'm glad you mentioned Mahomes because we get into the second quarter of our Defending the Kingdom podcast here. I'm not sure I have not been more proud of Patrick Mahomes than in the last 2 weeks, in the game at Detroit and the game against Indianapolis. The dude is ultra competitive. We know that. We know he's hyper smart. But I thought handling his poise under difficult circumstances. Last week he got sacked 4 times, hit 3 more times, knocked down 3 more times, and I think hit or hurried 14 more times. And yet the dude was in a position to win the game at the end. Now, rallying around Mahomes here, but just the growth that I've seen in him in handling this, to me, makes him more prepared to win this Houston game.
Oh, definitely. Any quarterback can sit back there like a 7-on-7 when they're not getting pressured. They don't have to worry about any hands on them. It's easy to keep your eyes down the field. But once you start receiving that pressure and you're getting hit and you're getting knocked down, you got to get back up. That's when you find a chink in the armor. You find who's the real deal and who's the fake when people are getting hit. And you're getting put on your butt and you got to keep getting up. But that's when you see guys at their greatest. That's when Mahomes is at his greatest. And you see that grit and that determination, that competitor, that alpha competitor comes out of him. And he starts to jab a little bit with the defense. I think that's when he's at his best. He really loves that confrontation. because it starts to challenge him in ways that you can't just create when the pocket's clean and he's able to step in every throw. Things are going great. No, that's not him at his best. His best when he's being pressured and have to make runs make throws on the run, and he's able to keep his vision down the field. No matter how many times you put him down, he keeps getting up. That's a sign of a great fighter, a great boxer, a great competitor, but also a great quarterback, a great leader, and that's what he's done for this team.
Poise and patience. I've seen it from him. I know he's a tough kid. You do too. Poise and patience. Here's the other thing I really appreciate about him is that, okay, Tyreek Hill hasn't played for a while. We're not sure he's going to play Sunday or not. Probably a game-time decision. Watkins goes down last week, 2 snaps into the game. 2 snaps. Rick Burkholder and staff's trying to get him ready to go. Doesn't matter to Mahomes. He tries to rally the guys around him, whether it's DeMarcus or Pringle, we talked about him, or Hardman or Dot, or the tight ends. He says, give me what we got, and let's figure this out. To me, that's the sign of a veteran quarterback. We've seen Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. We did do it for years.
Yeah, no matter who the guy running the routes, the expectation is that you know your job. You know what you do. When you get on this field and you're part of these 11, you got to know where to line up and you got to know where to make your adjustments. He's going to do his job. He's going to put the ball where it needs to be based off the defensive coverage. You got to do your job as a receiver to step up. Even if you haven't had the weeks of practice, you got to know where you belong. You got to be there when the ball gets there, and then make the catch and hold on to it. Those are the things that are just are kind of football one-on-one, but it's needed to keep the ball moving down the field. First down, touchdown.
Interesting, the defense that Mahomes will face in this game against the Texans. J.J. Watt, he's gone through 2 back surgeries. He had a broken leg. He looks back. He's playing at a high level, as we know he can. Whitney Merciless, arguably having the best year of his career. DJ Reader is an inside technique guy that I don't think gets enough pub. He'll play at the nose, again in that A-gap, sitting there looking at Austin Ryder, the Chiefs center, or slanting to him. But this is the defense. Let's talk about up front. They got some challenges, but again, it goes back to what we said in the first quarter. You're going to have to win some of these battles and whip these guys' rear ends.
Yeah, you got to definitely acknowledge and pay respect to where J.J. Watt is, right? We got to know before every ball is snapped where this joke is lined up, and is he working twists, if he's working stunts, if he's just pressure off the edge. You know, he has a great speed to power, secondary move counter. He's one of the best in the business is using his motor to overcome any kind of physical ailments. Even when he's beat up and he's facing, coming back from surgeries and stuff like that, he's still able to be so effective because he uses his hands, his lower body, his speed, his quickness. He uses all of those things together to make him as dominant a force he is. Batted balls. Remember, year after year, he led the league in batted balls because he would read the quarterback's eyes, gets his hands in the passing games. If you give him more time, then he converts that to a speed rush. If you set back too far, he converts speed to power and deposits your offensive lineman in the quarterbacks. So he's always making his presence known on the defensive line, and I think the rest of his warriors just feed off him. They know that he's getting so much attention that's allowed Merciless and Reader and the other guys to really shine. But they still have some chinks in their armor.
He's had 4.5. They're talking about Watt here. He's had 4.5 sacks against Kansas City in the 4 games he's played against him. He also got injured against the Chiefs. That was one of his back injuries, or re-injured it. But he's not played against Patrick Mahomes yet. They did not play last year. Didn't play the Texans after playing them about every year, including the playoff victory over them in 2015. Then on the back end, it's a little bit like the AFC West other dudes. Bradley Roby's on this team, former Bronco. You look at Jaleel Addae on this team, former Charger. Gibson was with the Jags last year playing here, and then Phillip Gaines was with the Chiefs. I want to ask you about the run game. The Chiefs trying to get their run game going. They've had some big runs. There's been some chunk runs. LaShawn McCoy, Shady's popped a few. Darrell Williams had a 41-yard run. Damian Williams know what he's capable of. Last week, that never got in track. How important is it, do you think, in just getting enough in the run game? You don't have to hit home runs, but just enough to keep Houston off balance.
And when you talk about playoff championship football, I think it's a balance between the run and the pass that you always try to possess. You never want to be so one-sided that you allow a team to totally key off, to be able to line up and know you're passing it and have their pass rushers come at you all the time. And you don't want to be so so fundamental or so one-sided that you just are handing the ball off to a running back so your linebackers can just come downhill and be smacking the mess out of the running backs every down. So creating that balance is where the offense takes the advantage in the game, because they get to decide whether you run or pass it, but the unknown, not knowing whether it's going to be a run and pass, that's what really gets an offense to get a defense off balance. And when you can, equalize that run-pass ratio, to me, that's when championship football really comes out. And this team can do it like no other. We have the weapons in the backfield. We have the quarterback. We got the receivers and tight end. And we got guys up front that can make some running lanes, the stretch game, the misdirection from the motions and shifts. They'll create vertical seams, and we have the guys that can exploit it. So I look for this game to be more of a balanced attack by our offense to keep that J.J. Watt-led Houston Texans defense off balance.
Again, we're at halftime now of our Defending the Kingdom podcast, our Reveille edition, answering the roll call. Here come the Houston Texans, a noon game at Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday. You can hear the trumpets blowing. Who is going to step up? Who's going to be healthy to play? If somebody has to fill in, who's going to play well there? Now we flip it to the other side, and Houston's coming up here on a full charge. Deshaun Watson last week was brilliant, to say the least. Over 400 yards passing, 5 touchdown passes, only 5 incompletions. He was 28 of 33. The only quarterback in National Football League history who had over 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, and only 5 incompletions ever in the 100-year history of this game. Deshaun Watson, he and Mahomes will always be tied together as long as they play, and even beyond. I mean, whatever form we're going to be watching video in about 20 years ago, those guys were in the 17 draft class, only 2 picks apart. Deshaun Watson is coming in here brimming with confidence.
Yeah, Deshaun's always going to have a little, competitive chip on his shoulder, because obviously both teams moved up in the draft.
Yep.
Right? The Chiefs moved up. The Texans moved up. The Chiefs moved up a few spots earlier to get the guy that they thought was a difference maker between those two. They thought that Pat Mahomes was a elite quarterback. Not that they downgraded Watson, but between the two, they had to make a choice. And they chose right. They chose the guy that is going to lead this team for the next decade to numerous victories, numerous playoff wins, and hopefully some Super Bowl championships. Now, Deshaun Watson has talent also. He has the he has alpha level elusiveness and the arm to make all the throws, as you could tell from last week. One thing he's working himself on is the recognition of defenses. He felt 2 weeks ago like he didn't feel like he recognized the defense early enough to make the throws to really hit some deep shots by the way the defense was playing him. He said he missed some shots to Fuller and to D-Hop early in that game. And when the reporter asked him about it, he got very detailed about it, and it actually broke down his understanding of cover 4 and how he supposed to attack a cover 4 versus a cover 2, in a classic one-on-one with the reporter. I think that was so just timely for a quarterback to get so tired of reporters thinking they know everything, and so he just threw it back in his face. Do you actually know what cover 4 is? And then he explained it to him and said, all right, well, I should have hit these 2 throws. That would have changed the game. And then he goes out, walks the field with his quarterback guru, mentally going over what had happened, how he was going to make a correction. And then the next game comes out, and as you saw, 5 incomplete passes, 5 touchdowns, perfect quarterback rating. I think that they said that coming into this game, this is going to be when you combine the 2 overall quarterback ratings of Pat Mahomes and Watson, in the modern day era, the highest combined total of 2 starting quarterbacks going into any game ever.
Yeah, I mean, we're blowing trumpet calls of Reveille. You might have that one they play before the Kentucky Derby because this is going to be a horse race. Watson, though, too, his ability to run the ball, you can't look past it. Last year, the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 4,000 yards and run for 500 yards. But Barbershop, he has been hit, and he's been hit a lot.
Yeah.
Last year, he was sacked 62 times, the most in the National Football League. This year, he has been sacked 18 times. There was a time last year he had a collapsed lung. He had broken ribs. They took him to the Jacksonville game in his own limo so he could lay out prone because he couldn't fly with the team because he was so beat up. The dude's a warrior. We got that. But he's also taken a bunch of hits. In their 2 losses this year, in Houston's 2 losses, Watson was sacked 6 times in each of those 2 games. But this is still a guy, when you want to compare him to Mahomes, has taken a lot more hits over time. It makes me appreciate his game. But you can't deny it. Those hits accumulate, and he's taken a bunch.
Yeah, that competitive nature, like I said, it comes out when you get hit and you have to get back up, but you're still getting hit by 300-pound men that runs 4.6. They've been able to move bodies. They've been able to put you down on the ground. And Deshaun Watson, the one thing I think that really the differentiator between him and Pat Mahomes is the ability that once you get up to continue looking downfield. By nature, once he gets hit and put down on the ground sometime, he does start rushing a little bit more, starts scrambling a little bit more. He abandons the pocket a little bit early once he's been hit. So I think that our defense has a real opportunity to kind of change the way he plays the game early in the game by really coming after him, getting him uncomfortable in the pocket, and making him kind of drop his eyes, get his eyes down off of D-Hops and Fuller for those deep bombs, and make him scramble around while we keep the defensive integrity of the back end. So I'm looking for a great day from our defense, penetrating that pocket, getting Watson to scramble out of that pocket, get him a little bit uncomfortable, and then see is he really that guy? Can he consistently make that throw down the field to his guys in game in very crucial situations throughout the game?
You mentioned D-Hop a couple times. Most everybody knows it's DeAndre Hopkins. Last week I said, or after the game, my line all week has been, was this the Houston Texans or the Houston Rockets? Because they had 53 points. It looks like they were on their way to 100. But when I look at these wide receivers for Houston, I think of the Houston Rockets, starting with DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, he's listed at 6'1", 218. In 6 years prior to this one, this is his 7th year, D-Hop had more receptions than any receiver in NFL history in his first 6 years. But now you throw in Will Fuller the 5th, who everybody's waited for. This is his 4th year, really fast guy. He's battled injuries, but oh my goodness, last week that was a clinic. 16 targets, I think, 14 catches, 217, and 3 touchdowns. And then you throw in the guy that played with Mahomes at Texas Tech, Kiki Kuti, and then they get Kenny Stills. So the Texans benefited from the fire sale of the Dolphins on Labor Day weekend. They get Kenny Stills and left tackle Laramie Tunsil from the Dolphins. But this wide receiver core looks like they are some NBA dudes.
Yeah, Will Fuller the 5th has definitely took advantage of the opportunity to go against some defenses that have concentrated so much on D-Hop. Like, we're not going to let D-Hopkins beat us. We're going to double, triple team him, do whatever we have to do. And that's left Will Fuller with some one-on-ones against some lower-level cornerbacks, and he's exploited them. That game last week with 3 touchdowns, every throw that went his way was on target, but he had the guy beat 5-6 yards. He definitely knows how to use his speed to create openings and create some separation from defenders. But I think you got to play their defense their offense as a whole. You can't just worry so much about D-Hop that you let other guys have game-breaking, career-type numbers on you. I think you just got to play it level and but definitely make a concentrated effort to get the quarterback off his mark, make him make some throws, and when that ball's in the air, as we seen Honey Badger do it last week, when that ball's in the air, it's anybody's. It has no intended receiver anymore. Once the quarterback lets go of the ball, we have to think our secondary is like a no-fly zone. Any ball in the air is going to be ours, and then we can return that thing for a pick 6. So I like the way our secondary matches up against these guys. When late in the down, late in the snap count in the play, he's always liable just to throw it over to D-Hop's side. But I think we can really hang in with these guys in the secondary and really change the game with our intensity on our defensive front.
I fully expect this Chiefs secondary to have their best game yet. I feel it coming from these guys. And I know it's been a challenge. But Rashad Breeland, we had him on the Chiefs Kingdom show Monday night on the Chiefs Fox Football Radio Network. And he was Hopkins' roommate at Clemson. They were roommates. I said, have you ever played against him? Nope, never have. I said, well, that'll be interesting. He goes, yeah, I'm sure it's going to be, but it's going to be like a Clemson spring practice.
That's right. They
right?
battle.
But that means it's on. It's a battle. But I'm glad you brought up the Honey Badger because before we go to the fourth quarter here on this Defending the Kingdom podcast, Reveille, who will answer the call, just enough winning plays on defense. People get caught up in looking at total defense. They come up passing defense and rushing defense. And, yes, particularly the run defense and yards per run are big here. But I'm talking about just enough winning plays. The Honey Badger last week, winning plays. The pick, and he plays the counter pitch. Blows the guy up, holds him to a field goal. If the Chiefs get a touchdown, they still can win 17-16. All right, you go back through the season. Breeland's play against Detroit, 100-yard, let's just run it back. Those are winning plays and just getting more winning plays. You're not going to win them all against the Houston Rocket Texans, but getting enough winning plays to win the game.
Yeah, defensive, your mentality got to be, hold them, make them keep snapping the ball, make them keep trying to, keep them out the end zone. You defend that end line as many snaps you have to keep the opponent out of the end zone, and then you force them to have field goals. You want them to, you want to make great plays, you want to make sacks, you want to do all these things. You want to stop and have tackles for loss, but at the end of the day, at the end of that drive, it ends up with a punt or a field goal attempt. Your job was done. And I think our defense, time and time again last week, they probably wish they could do a few things better, a few, scraped and tackled a little bit sharper here and there. But as the in-game result, holding the Colts to 19 points, one offensive score and then a bunch of field goals, that's a winning performance. That's the kind of intensity you can grow off of, you can learn from, you can build upon. I think they just tighten up the ship a little bit. Like we said, we got some guys who are going to fill in and step up. We got Chris Jones. That's a big a void in the middle for guys to step up and make an opportunity with. But I expect Kalen Sanders to do that. Yep. He was a young guy drafted. He's very athletic, very strong, flexible, nimble. I want to see all that personality out there on the field. I want to see all of that come to fruition. And then when we have our linebackers be able to go, Damon Wilson and Ben Neiman, Hitchman, the hitman, if he's ready to roll, let's be going. But our linebackers just playing downhill, playing fast, definitely just letting your personality show as a defense, and let's continue to evolve. Let's continue to evolve as a unit.
Finally, in the last couple of minutes, our fourth quarter here of the Defending the Kingdom podcast, here come the Texans. Reveille, answer the call, has to deal with the Kingdom in the stadium. Sometimes in a game it can get frustrating. That game last week against the Colts was, we're used to seeing the Chiefs score 30 points a game. It wasn't that kind of game. But the crowd can have such a gigantic part in this game. Gigantic, we talk about all the time. But that also means answering the call when it gets tough. It's not any different than the players.
Yeah, each game, each week when it comes down for the fans to get to the stadium, get loud, let the opponent know from the opening kickoff what type of day it's going to be. So this is not going to be a game to sit out and tailgate until 5 minutes before kickoff. This is going to be a game to get out there, get your tailgating done 2 hours before kickoff, get your butts into the stadium 90 minutes before kickoff, and let that team know all during warm-ups what type of day they should be expecting from the Kingdom. It's going to be a loud, proud, rowdy day, and they should have no comfort level at all, not one snap for the 60-minute football game. And that's the type of when we talk about answering the call, we also expect not just the coaches and players, but the fans, the equipment staff, everybody as part of the Kingdom needs to answer the call and rebound from that loss of last week. So my expectations of the Kingdom, the sea of red, all of the Chiefs fanatics is one that I expect to be loud and proud on Sunday at noon.
And this game could be a shootout, but that doesn't mean it's going to be figure skating. This is going to be hockey, and you're not always going to have the puck. So don't get frustrated, get down, just get red and real and rowdy, because this is a gigantic game. And who is going to answer the call? And the bugle call is out there again. I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, Shawn Barber. Time for Reveille. Roll call.
Thanks for listening to the Chiefs Official Podcast Network.
10, 5, touchdown! Lock it down! And the celebration begins.